My name is Caroline Asiala. I am the marketing manager here at Bobtail. And at Bobtail, we provide a factoring service for truckers with no long-term contracts and no hidden fees. If that's something interesting to you, you can get more information at bobtail.com. And I am joined by the one and only Rick Escobar, who is our sales manager here at Bobtail. He is the negotiating extraordinaire to help us learn a little bit more about negotiation, particularly for small businesses, small trucking businesses who are needing to negotiate with brokers, big, small, whatever brokers you're working with. The ones you find on load boards are going to be new to you. So how do you negotiate with people that you don't necessarily know, right? If you don't have a trusting relationship with them, it can be kind of uncomfortable. It can be kind of intimidating to try and negotiate with them, but that's what you got to do in trucking to really get the best rates. We're going to be focused on how do you find those loads, first of all, and how do you negotiate better rates? That's what we're going to be talking about today. And we're also going to be talking to someone who is an industry veteran, has got multiple decades of experience. And we are going to be talking to him about what he looks for in the carriers that he sources for his brokerage. So that's going to be a great opportunity for everyone to learn from. So we are going to start off with that question. How are you currently getting loads? You can go ahead and answer the poll, but you can also send it in the chat. Are you using a dispatcher? Are you using load boards already? Are you experienced with Amazon or using direct shippers? What is it that you're using to get work with your truck? If you're on this call, I'm assuming that you're probably pretty new to working with brokers. So maybe you're newer to load boards. Let us know. So it looks like a couple of people use dispatchers. I know that in our customer base, a lot of people are using dispatchers. And hey, there are really great dispatchers out there. Definitely, there are lots of people who can get you great loads and great freight. The downside as an owner operator, as a trucking business, to using a dispatcher, third-party dispatching service, or even just hiring someone to dispatch your loads or your trucks, is that if you hire that person outright, you're going to be paying salary, right? Or an hourly rate to that person. Or if you are, which is the more common, getting a dispatcher who's going to take a percentage of your revenue, that is, of course, not ideal when you have to cut costs, right? So if someone's taking, 5, 10, 15% of what you're earning, that can be a really big hindrance to your business when times get tough. Now, when times are good, rates are high, it can be really worth it because then you can focus on other things, other parts of your business. When times are hard, you really want to be able to cut costs, and your dispatching service might be one of those costs that you might want to try and cut. So a really good way to find loads, and what we always recommend to all of our clients, is learn how to dispatch yourself. Find the best load boards, find the load boards that work for you. These are our top 3: DAT, 123 load board, truck stop. These 3 are our top load boards that we've heard from carriers are the best. You can also find a full list of load boards that are out there on our blog at bobtail.com/blog. Definitely go check that out. And we will also leave it in the description when we upload this onto YouTube. So it'll be in the description below. A note for new carriers. So if you are brand new, you've just gotten your MC, let's say you've just gotten your authority activated, you're ready to go, you're ready to get out on the road, you are likely going to need to work with brokerages, the bigger brokerages first. These are brokerages like Landstar and TQL, Total Quality Logistics. These are brokers that are going to work with those new motor carrier authorities. So you, as a new carrier, don't have a good track record of safety and reliability, delivering on time. You don't have that in your operating authority yet. And so you kind of need to prove yourself in that first month or so, where you need to actually prove that you can deliver loads and you can do it on time and you can do it reliably. So if you're brand new, you're going to be looking at these guys. These guys actually have their own all these bigger brokerages have their own load boards. So you can check out the Landstar load board and get signed up with them, run a few loads for them, get some stuff in the books, get some stuff in your history, and then you'll be able to go out onto the bigger load boards and get more freight. So what we wanted to show you today is a quick little tutorial of the Trucker's Edge load board. This is the DAT load board. This is the sort of lower tier of the DAT load board. So you can find different sort of plans for this load board, and they're at different price points. This is the Trucker's Edge. This is the $45 one, $45 a month. And I think it goes up to maybe $150 or $200 a month, where it gives you different features. So depending on what you need, but if you're really just starting out, you don't really need anything other than this basic version of the DAT load board. I'm going to go through how to search for loads from origin, destination, deadhead. What do all these things mean? Okay, so origin and destination, pretty straightforward. Where are you coming from? Where do you want to go to? You can always leave destination open. So if you're in the Chicago area, let's say, and you're really not picky of where you're going to go, you don't have a specific idea in mind of where you want to go, then you can leave this open and it will give you all of those loads coming out of Chicago. So you're coming out of the Chicago area, the deadhead from origin. So that's that DHO. Deadhead from origin means how many miles are you willing to go out of your way to pick up this load? So you're already in Chicago and I'm saying, all right, I'm already in Chicago and I'm willing to go 100 miles out of my way to pick up a load. You can move this, you can switch this around and say, nope, I just want to go from Chicago, so 0 miles deadhead, or I'm willing to go a little bit farther out of my way. And then the destination, like we said, I'm going to leave this blank just to see everything that's coming out of Chicago, but you could put something in here specifically. If you're looking to just go, I know that there's a lot of good freight coming out of Atlanta, Georgia. Well, you could put Atlanta here and you could do, or you think it's just the whole state of Georgia. Well, then you could do a 300-mile radius or a 400-mile radius of Atlanta. That'll get you lots of Georgia, right? The truck type here, so you're gonna be able to see what loads are available for different types of equipment. I'm gonna stick with vans. This is the dry van, kind of a standard search here. But if you're a flatbed, if you have a reefer, if you've got containers or whatever you're looking for specifically, you can check them here. Then you can put in length and weight. This does limit the search. So if you're not really specific about the length of truck that you're looking for, or that you have, or the weight of the load that you're looking for, leave these blank. You'll always be able to see in the details of the load what length of truck you need and what the weight is, right? You can also choose between full and partial. I'm keeping both. And then the look back hours, this is really important. You want to look at the loads that have been recently added to the load board, right? If you're looking at loads that have been on the load board for a while, chances are they're already in negotiation with maybe even a couple of carriers. So I'm just going to look at the loads that have been posted in the last 2 hours. If I'm looking for, let's say I'm looking for a load for Monday, and let's just say we're going to pick up and drop off on Monday. So I'm going to expand this a little bit so you can see all this information that is coming up. So you can see the age. So how long has it been on the load board? The pickup. All right, what day are we picking up? There's, more than 1,000 loads coming out of Chicago. Surprise, surprise, Chicago's big freight hub, right? So the pickup date is going to be on Monday. This is the origin. Where are you going to pick it up? And the deadhead miles from the origin, right? So Wooddale, Illinois, that's 25 miles from Chicago. So that's what that means. The destination and how many deadhead miles from the destination. Of course, I didn't put a destination, right? You can see my destination is anywhere. So I'm looking to go anywhere here. And so the deadhead miles is going to be blank here. But if you did put a specific destination, then the deadhead miles will show up there. How long the trip is, right? So you've got everything from 14 miles to 1,200 miles, even in this first couple here. So this is what are you looking for, right? We've got the type of equipment, the length that you're going to need. So this is looking for a 53-foot dry van. The weight, so this one is 20,000 pounds. It's full and as opposed to partial. This factor check here, now that doesn't necessarily mean that any factoring company will factor this load. It just means that the factoring company that DAT works with will. I can't quite remember which factoring company that is, but it's just their factoring company that's going to factor this load. If you want to know if your factoring company will do it, you'll probably have to get in touch with them, unless, of course, you factor with Bobtail, and then you've got lots of ways that you can check whether or not this broker will be factored by Bobtail. You've got the mobile app, you have the desktop app, you have a phone number actually that you can text really quickly to see. You just text the MC number and it comes back, yep, we'll factor this load. Here's their credit rating with us. And then the credit score, so that is also from the DAT universe. That's the credit score that they are assigning to this broker, not necessarily the same one that you'll get from other agencies or other factoring companies. But this is a really good sign. If a broker has a high credit rating, you're in good hands. You're very likely to get paid for this load. Unfortunately, it does happen. It's rare, but it does happen that people get caught up in double brokering or other scams and they don't get paid for loads. So you want to avoid that as much as you possibly can. And then this column here, really important column to take into consideration, the days to pay DTP. That it means that if you don't factor this load, how many days is it going to take this broker to pay you, right? So if you are looking to get paid really quickly in this industry, really important to get a factoring service because brokers are not going to pay you the next day or even the next week. Usually they will wait at least a couple of weeks, if not months, to pay you for the loads that you deliver. That's why factoring companies exist. That's why we exist at Bobtail, to do factoring right. So if you're interested in that, check us out. But definitely pay attention to this if you are not factoring. And then the company, that's going to be the broker, the contact information, and what they're offering. You'll notice that not all of these loads are posted with an offer. That means that you are going to have to call them up and offer what it is that you're willing to get paid to deliver that load. Rick's going to talk about that in a minute. How do you even determine how much you should ask for? Well, spoiler alert, you need to know your cost per mile. You need to know how much it's going to cost you to deliver the load, and then you need to put your profit margin on top of that. Another good feature of this load board is that they give you in the DAT directory a ton of information about each broker. So they give you rating, you can read reviews about this broker, you can look into what kind of history they have, what kind of commodities that they deal in, what kinds of loads that they usually post. So a lot of information here. There's even information about their surety bond here. So if you ever do get into a situation where you're not getting paid or the broker has gone out of business, you are within your right to file on their surety bond to get paid. So you can actually find that information right here on the DAT load board. We are going to be answering some of our questions at the end of this. One thing I did want to share with everyone is how you can check your broker's credit, the broker that you're working with, their credit with Bobtail. So I mentioned this before, there's a lot of ways that you can do that on the Bobtail app, but this is the easiest way to download the mobile app when you're factoring with us. You can download our mobile app and you can just type the broker's name or MC into the app and boom, you get a green check mark or a red X. Green check mark says, yep, we will factor this load because we believe that this broker is reputable and that they will pay the bill when the bill comes due. And that's what we're looking for, right? We as a factoring company, we vet all of the brokers to make sure that you're going to get paid and we're going to get paid at the end of the day. That's one of the great things about a factoring service. There's also the flip side to that, which is while we don't check credit on any of our carriers, we do verify the carrier's business before they can start factoring with us. And that is actually a green flag for brokers. So if you are not verified by a factoring company, then you may have a little bit of a harder time, especially if you're first starting out, in booking loads, because you're not necessarily a verified carrier business. If you're already factoring with a company, then that's a green flag for the broker to say, okay, this is a legitimate company. I want to do business with them. How many loads are on the DAT's load board in a given year? Give it your best guess. How many loads do you think are on the DAT load board? 100K, good guess, good guess. 100,000, do we think it's more than that? Less than that? What do we say? Yeah, more. All right. Well, it is indeed over 200 million loads on the DAT load board every year. So you can have a lot of opportunity by getting on to some of these load boards. There are hundreds of millions of loads going in and out, and you have the opportunity to find them not only on the DAT load board, but other load boards, and then even negotiate better rates for those loads, which is what we're going to talk about right now with Rick Escobar. He is our negotiator extraordinaire here at Bobtail. He's our sales manager at Bobtail, and he is going to give you a 101 on negotiating better rates. And then we're going to have a special guest that's going to talk about how to how to work with brokers directly. So Rick, thank you so much for joining us, and take it away.
Thank you, Caroline. Really good information. You know, one of the things that this is the first time that we do this as a company, as a format, to provide information to owner operators so that they are better prepared as they come into the business. And maybe they're already in the business, and we want to be able to offer something of substance that they can take away with them so that they can grow their business. Now, in the basic knowledge of negotiating, one of the things that everyone must know, your numbers. And one of the reasons why we decided and we opted to show a little bit of the load board is because if you use the load board correctly, you can get a lot of knowledge of what's available. For example, one of the things that you can look at the number of trucks that are available in a specific region and versus the number of loads that are available. And that gives you leverage, right? If there are more trucks available than there are loads, then maybe you really can't negotiate a much higher rate. So keep that in mind. You're looking at information, and you want to be able to disseminate that information before you make that phone call. You can also look at what has been the average for that particular lane over the last 90 days. And once again, these are averages, which means that if you see a load for $1,000 as an average of the last 90 days, well, that means that somebody got more than 1,000 and somebody got less than 1,000. So that's the start of this, of becoming a better negotiator, is knowing the numbers. And one of the most important numbers to know is obviously what is your cost per mile. You have to know every dime and nickel you spent running your business. And there's plenty of calculators out there specifically for the trucking industry that will help you. And there's obviously a lot of financial accounting software that's available for you to figure out what this is. Once you know your cost per mile, you can negotiate from there. If your cost to run your truck is $1.25, okay, then everything from that point on is something that you bring on for your business. I want to emphasize, there's a lot of people who are starting out in business. Their intention is, okay, I'm going to go into business just to work for myself. And the mentality needs to be, you're an entrepreneur. How do I grow my business? Don't just buy yourself a job. Don't just work for an hourly so you can survive. Work for so you can grow your business. In determining your cost per mile, you have to have a salary for, if you're the driver, well, then it's a salary for you. That has to be part of the equation. A lot of new people who are owner operators forget to add this as a line item to figure out their costs. And again, that is extremely critical and crucial to grow your business. Now, once you know your numbers, when you're making these calls, and again, you understand the market, you understand what the average rate is, you can show the value that you bring as a carrier. Now, what value do you add? You could be a proximity to the location. It could be that you've dealt with this type of loads before. Maybe you ran this lane before, but that is very important. Okay. Now, when you're talking to a broker, and we have the pleasure of having Dale Prax, who's been in the business for a very long time, and he owns his own broker company, and he's really going to tell us more insight onto some of the things that I'm sharing with you. Once talk to them, confidence is really also very important. You have to be confident that you know what you're talking about. Now, with that comes a couple of things. Never overpromise and underdeliver. You want to do the opposite. You want to underpromise and overdeliver, right? In addition to that, this new slide is extremely important. You don't want to get into an argument with them. If they're trying to get a low number, you want to understand why that is. Is there room for movement? So you want to ask these questions. You want to make this a win-win situation. You want to get the job done. You want to earn enough money to cover your cost and then put money in your pocket for the business. And then you want to make it a successful relationship with your broker. So no use of profanity, no cursing, or no cussing, as they say in the South. And don't become too cocky. Just be you. Those things are really going to go a long way. But I want to introduce you to Dale Prax. Dale has been in the business for over 25 years. As I mentioned, Dale has his own brokerage. He has just a wealth of knowledge, and I'm going to let him speak. So, Dale, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule.
First, I want to say that seeing this platform is just, I've been doing this in June, the June 17th will be my 30th year as a freight broker. And so this is the first time I've ever seen a platform like this where a factory company or anybody talks to new carriers to tell them what kind of goes on. So this is really a kind of a cool thing for me to see. I was really kind of surprised that somebody's actually taken initiative and embarking on a bold initiative to do that, because if everybody had done that to all the carriers that are before you, man, what a great industry we'd have right now. But we don't have it. I mean, it's a wonderful industry, but I think that it would eliminate a lot of fraud and a lot of those things that are really take over the landscape of what we're doing today. So one of the things I want to mention first, when I know you touched on some factoring. So from my perspective as a broker who pays carriers like you, if I were a brand new carrier, the first thing I would do is jump onto the factoring company. Why do I say that? Because today, fraud has been prevalent throughout the whole nation. It's a $600 million to $800 million problem where people like you are getting ripped off because double brokers are paying the wrong people. So as a broker, I look to a brand new carrier to say, okay, are you with a factoring company? And why do I ask that? People think that there's double brokering issues and fraud issues because someone doesn't have enough inspections. They haven't been around long enough. They don't have a good safety record. All of those things matter to the guy that's been around for a long time. But most fraud, most double brokering doesn't come from any of that compliance stuff. It comes from identity. So if I'm looking for a new carrier, the first thing I want to know, have they been identified by somebody? Can I look at their articles of incorporation to see if the person that owns that company matches the company that they say they are with Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration? Why do I do that? Because the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration puts about 1,200 carriers a day into the Federal Register, and they aren't checking that. So as a broker, I've got to be real sure. So the reason I say a factoring company, because a factoring company has a process called Know Your Customer. They know who you are. You follow the money, and you'll always know who the customer is. So I know as a broker that a person that's factoring my receivable has gone through an underwriting process. Your competitors aren't going through that if they're not factoring. So most brokers they consider every one of the new carriers that come on to be a fraudster. So what you have to do is prove that you're not, because there are 387,000 other MC numbers that you're competing with. You're trying to deliver, or you're trying to make friends with and become customers of about 40,000 brokers that are out there right now. So what do you have to do to set yourself apart? First of all, identify yourself. The easiest way to do that is through underwriting. So then you can, when you make your first call to that broker, you go on DAT and find a load. You can say, I want to tell you that I'm a brand new carrier. I've only been doing this for 3 months. My MC number's low, but I'll tell you who I am. I'm very honest. You can look me up. Here's a copy of my my article of incorporation. Here's who I am. Here's a picture of my truck with the MC number on it that matches my registration. I will send you a picture of my driver's license so you can send it to your shipper. So when he shows up there, you'll know who's coming. It's a safety issue too. So you want to find ways to be doing things that other people aren't even thinking about. So you're saying, you want your broker to say, this is a guy or gal that's brand new, that I'm working with a huge company, or a company's been around for 25 years that hasn't even thought of these things. What an entrepreneurial spirit. What an innovator. This person's a pioneer. They've only been in business for 3 months. That's the guy I look for, or the gal I look for. Somebody that really takes their business to heart and says, how do I help out my customer? How do I make my broker know to his shipper that he's dealing with a good company? So that's really probably the most important thing I look for, your identity. If you have a PO box listed as your principal place of business with Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, I would recommend that you stop that, because it's against the law. If you're working out of a PO box or a virtual office, let's say you don't want to put your home address because you're working out of your house, I'll tell you right now, that's against the law. So a lot of people are looking for fraudulent activity among new carriers, are looking specifically for that. Matter of fact, I started a company about 2 months ago, to make sure that people aren't doing those sort of things. If you have a PO box, it's against Code of Federal Regulations 49, paragraph 390.5T. I know that's illegal, so don't do it. So don't work out of a PO box. Don't work out of a FedEx office. Don't work out of a UPS store. Put your actual physical address, because now you're, again, identity. I'm a good commodity to work with. The other thing, you could write this down. It's a free tool that I offer to all carriers and all brokers. It's called freightvalidate.com. All you have to do is type in an MC number. Here's one of the biggest ways a new guy like you is going to get hosed over. I'll tell you right now, it's going to happen. You're going to get a call from somebody that says, I have a load going somewhere, because you have a truck posted, right? You have your truck posted in Chicago. So some unscrupulous person is going to send you a text or an email or a phone call and say, I've got a load for you. And they're going to pay you a lot of money. You see, Rick talked about the average rate across the board, what somebody should pay for a load. Let's say it's $1,000 going from Minneapolis to Chicago, or Chicago to Minneapolis. Some guy comes up and says, I'll give you $1,500. What's the first thing you think of? Wow, I'll take it. I'm making $500 more than the average. So then what happens is that same guy that gave you the load, pretending he's a broker, because he gave you an MC number, you don't know the difference because you don't have the tool to look for it. He's actually another carrier who got that from a broker, who's going to give it to you, and then he's not going to pay you, then he's going to go out of business. They do it every day, every single day. So as a new broker, you need to know, am I getting this load from a carrier, or am I getting this load from a broker? They all have an MC number. There's not really much difference, but if you go to freightvalidate.com, it'll say, this person is a carrier. Do not take a load from a carrier. Okay? It's free. Use it, please. And if you don't like it, I'll give you all your money back. Okay? So that's what I look for from a broker, and ways to help you become better carriers. I mean, I love brand new brokers, because brand new carriers, because when I came into this, that's all I knew. And so you got to make guys like me want to use you as a brand new carrier. You have to be, I'm different than the guy that's been doing this for 30 years, because I care. They've been around the block. Are they factoring their receivables? Are they, and the other thing is, ask your broker, are you factoring your receivables? They may use companies like Denim and things to factor their receivables. If they do, that's wonderful. Even if you're factoring, they may pay you quickly. But the cool thing about it, companies like Denim pay their factoring companies within 2 days. that's great for you because you're factoring, getting your money fast, but you know that your factoring company is being taken good care of because they're getting paid faster too. That's how this whole thing works, is cash flow. So you want to get paid fast. You want your factoring company to get paid fast. It could work on, how your relationship with them is, because you're using brokers that factor also, or quick pay without any charge. Everybody wins in that scenario. Okay, does that make sense? All right. So we talked about PO Box. If you have, how many of you use Gmail addresses for your contact information? Raise your hand and say how many people use Gmail address. What I would tell you to do is stop doing that, because again, it goes back to fraud. Anybody can go get a free Gmail address and go out of business tomorrow after they took a bunch of money from you. Be legitimate. Get a website, a domain name. Get a website, even if it's one page that says, hey, here's what we do. Here's what we do differently. Here's our factoring company we use, so you're going to get paid quickly. That makes you look like a legitimate company. A Gmail address with no email address, with no website, you're just another clown out there that's maybe just trying to make a buck, and I don't know if you're going to take my load and take it to a warehouse to sell it. It happens every day. Even Amazon, the biggest shipper in the world, is losing 17 loads a week to fraud. So if it's happening to them, it's going to happen to guys like you. So let's just not be legit. Let people know that you're legit. I have a website. I have an email address. That's not a Gmail. I think that you mentioned dispatch services a little bit. There's a problem going on right now with Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration talking about dispatch services. Some of them are not going to be your friends, even though they want to get your business and move loads for you. I think the comment that was made earlier about having first of all, dispatch your own loads when you're first starting out, because you know exactly what's going on. You're taking care of your carriers. You've got a really good relationship with your customers. Don't hire some clown that's, says, oh, I can book loads for you. He doesn't know you. He doesn't know what your ethics are, what your culture is, and he's not going to be able to display that to your broker. Okay? Be your team. Be your customer. When you hire somebody, then, hire them to be an extension of you, not an extension of their brokerage service. I would say steer away from brokerage services, because too many of them act as a dispatch service. They act as a broker when they're really not. So they don't have the surety bond. They don't have all the ethics things that brokers have to go through. So steer away from them if you can. Get with a good, reliable broker. There's plenty of them out there. Knock on doors, send out flyers, find the good brokers. There's a cream of the crop. Also on Freight Validate, you'll find if it's a bad broker who double brokers loads or who commits fraud, you'll see a big red X on their name. Don't use them. Okay. And you also see there may be a yellow warning where they may have a Gmail address as a broker. You just want to say, okay, they're not doing anything illegal, but they have a Gmail address, so I may just question them. That may cause me to call them on the telephone and say, hey, I know you have a Gmail address, so in today's market, I want to be really careful and talk to you more about this load, and talk to the driver. As a driver, talk to your shippers and say, I'm the guy that's coming in there. Have your driver call them and say, hey, I'm your driver that's coming to pick up for you. I just want to have a relationship with you. I know my dispatcher, my owner has a relationship, but I'm going to let you know that I'm going to take care of your shipper when I get there. Make a relationship between your drivers and your customers. It's really, really important. They'll think the world of you. Drivers call me, well, they do it all the time now because we've just put that into our system, but a few years ago. But there's nothing better than a broker getting a call from a driver saying, hey, I'm your person. I'm going to be there on time. I have tracking through my ELD system. How often do you need updates? If you're proactive like that, I'm going to tell you what, you'll beat the pants off of anybody, because the big guys aren't doing it. The old guys aren't doing it. The guys that aren't savvy aren't doing it. Okay. So be so proactive. Make sure you get with your insurance company. And if you have, how many trucks the most you have? Like between 5 and 10 or 1, 2, 3? Make sure your insurance company on your certificate of insurance lists the VIN numbers of the trucks you actually own. Because as a broker, I'm going to look at that, and I'm going to probably ask your driver to tell me what the VIN number is on his truck, so there's not another case of a stolen identity or stolen load. Or if somebody somehow gets your information and sends their truck in to pick up your load to steal it, somebody asks for the VIN number. Hey, the VIN number doesn't match. Boop, call the police. This guy's taking a load, doesn't belong to him. Be proactive. Get your insurance company to work with you and say, look, I know normally on the certificate of insurance you don't list my VIN numbers. If you have scheduled auto for me, list all of my VIN numbers so that my brokers see that I'm up front and I'm putting everything on the line and telling them, here it is. Okay. Make sure that you're not affiliated or sharing an office address with another broker. Like none of a carrier, you guys should never ever own two carrier authorities, because no one will use you if you do, okay? Because it looks like fraud. How many of you have brokerage authority on top of your carrier authority? Is anybody planning on doing that? Is anybody doing that? I would steer clear from it. Decide to be one or the other, unless you're going to have two separate companies away from each other, because all it does is perpetrate the perception of fraud. I'm going to take the load as a broker, as a carrier. I'm going to give it to my broker, who's going to give it to somebody else. Just stay away from it. Stay in your lane. Do what you do best. Be the best carrier you can be out there, and don't pretend to be somebody else, because I don't care how you do it, you'll always get caught. Always be ethical. Always be on top of things. Always tell the truth. Always let them know you're telling the truth. Make sure you have your drivers involved in it so they're singing the same song you are, so the broker doesn't have any concern about your company. I talk really fast. I'm passionate about being a broker. Can you tell anybody? Yeah, I guess that's it. I mean, the biggest thing is just know your customer. Make sure they get to know you. If you have an opportunity in your backyard that there's an industrial plant that's got some trucks you see going in and out of there, go in there and talk to them and try and get a dedicated run out of them. Tell them, I'm your neighbor. I'm the guy that's in your back street or your backyard. If you have a problem, you can come have coffee with me at Dunkin' Donuts. The other guy that's just sending stuff in, you may never get to know him or see him. I'm telling you, I'm in your backyard. I'm your friend. I live in the same city. We support the same McDonald's. Knock on those doors of those guys nearby. Okay, that's a really good place to get business. The other thing about that is generally you'll make more money that way if you go directly to the shipper, okay? Because the broker makes 15 to 25% profit. That could be $300 in the load. Wouldn't you rather have the $300? I sure would.
Yeah, absolutely. Dale, just terrific information. It's so cool to, again, to come together and we want to build this. This is, like I said, this is the first time we've done this. We've had this idea for quite some time now, but we want to build this into a meeting where we can get 50, 60, 100 people in, because you said it. Look, we have over 1,200 carriers daily signing up daily, and a lot of these people don't know about double brokering. They don't know what the little thing like having a PO box means to a guy like you, to the Gmail issue, and those things. Like you said, look, this is a great industry, but we can make it better. And the only way for us to make it better is for us to get together. And what I can say is nothing but thank you so much. I hope you can join us in our next ones for these people that keep this country rolling, keep the economy moving. And we want to give back in whatever way. We want to earn their business. We are different than many other factoring companies. And, the biggest thing that we have going is we don't have a long-term contract. We don't lock you in. So you can come in and we have to demonstrate to you that, look, we do what we say. And we pay you the same day. You submit your invoices. It's all technology driven. It's all technology that we developed. And that is a huge plus for our carriers because we're committed to providing the best possible service. So we are investing our own money into our own software. And that allows you to submit an invoice by 9 o'clock and get paid by 5 p.m. the same day. And remember, the biggest thing is if you're not happy with the service, you can leave. Where if you sign with any other factoring company out there, they're going to lock you in. If you're not happy with their service, guess what? They're going to hit you for an early termination fee. And we've seen some incredibly crazy termination fees, like $15,000, like $100,000, just some ridiculous fees because they just want a hostage. They want to take you as a hostage. So I want you to consider us for factoring.
I want to just say one more thing about the factoring company. I'm familiar with Bobtail through a very good friend of mine who's also in a factoring business. And there are a couple things I want to say. One is that a smaller factoring company, you're going to find out that there's these huge behemoth factoring companies that want your business. They're going to knock on your door and talk to you, and they're going to try and reel you in because they're the biggest, right? The biggest is not the best. I'm telling you, I've been there. I'm a little jaded. Those guys, and I hate talking bad about anybody, so I don't want to mention any names, but you're going to hear some big companies. And they're saying, come in here, we do it for everybody. Yeah, they do. That means they don't care about you, because they're not going to change their rules for you for any reason. I want to get paid at 2 o'clock instead of 5. I want to do this. I want to make a little bit of a change. A small company will say, well, that makes sense to you. It might make sense to somebody else. The big companies are going to say, I don't care. We do it this way. And if you don't like it, you leave. So that's an important aspect. The other thing that I think is important is, as a broker, you have assets. You have something that you can drive and you can sell. It's a tangible product. All I have for an asset is my reputation. And I sure wouldn't tie it to a company I didn't believe in. So as a broker who's been doing this 30 years, I believe in a company like Bobtail. And so that, if I'm putting my neck out there to say that, I have a reputation to uphold. And so that's a reputation I want to see you guys build. And Rick, I'll be on every single one of these things, because my company depends on good people getting in this kind of information.
Dale, you are more than invited to.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Dale. Wonderful information. I think that we can and make this in the industry safer for everybody. Just go from there. So thank you so much for your time.
There's a club of people, y'all familiar with LinkedIn and Facebook and all the social media things? There's a club that's called freightclub.us. You can go to the website, or there's an app on Google and on Apple phone. This is a group of brokers, shippers, carriers that all come together. It's like a social media thing for people that are good guys. I personally vet everybody that comes on there. So if you're a bad guy and you're in Uzbekistan and you're going to try and book a load with one of my good carriers, you ain't getting in the club. Okay. But people like you will get into the club because, you know, especially if you're going through Bobtail as a factoring company, that's just a no-brainer. You come in because I know you've got underwriting. So it's just a club that you're going to be able to get valuable information. You'll see what's going on in the industry a little bit. You'll see some good pointers. You can ask questions. You can say, hey, what should I charge for this lane? What are you guys getting for this lane? Who should I look out for? Where's a good place to put my truck? If my truck ends up here, is there parking nearby? Those are all really important questions, because you don't want to have an hour of service problem because there's no parking nearby your shipper, okay? So I would just encourage you to join that club, something I started about a month ago, just to bring good people together, and only good people can come in. So I'm sure you all are good people. So we'll bet you and bring you in.
I think it's really good stuff. We want to grow these sort of venues because, again, good information makes all of us better. And that's what we're looking for.
And if you have any other questions about brokerage or anything, Rick has my contact information. The only way this company, this whole industry is going to get better by people that have been around for a while helping people that are coming in. Okay? Because I want you all to be in the seat I'm in 30 years from now, saying, wow, this is a great decision I made, and I've helped a lot of people.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody. It's really nice to meet you.
Just a storm of freight market knowledge. I know I learned quite a few new things. What is it that you would like to see in the future? What are some of the topics that you'd like to see us talk about? I know everyone's going to say the best part of this workshop was Dale just dropping knowledge after knowledge after knowledge on our group today. So please let us know. We've gotten some questions in the chat here. We got a couple while we were talking about load boards and how to choose those loads. One of the questions we have here is, how do I calculate my cost per mile? Now, there is lots of different frameworks of how to manage finances in a business. But if you are a single truck or just a couple of trucks owner operator, you're going to be looking for the simplest way to do this calculation. And that is gathering together everything that you've spent on your business. That means both fixed costs and variable costs. What does that mean? Fixed costs doesn't change. Think things like your insurance. Now, of course, that can change over time, but month to month, your insurance payment is going to be the same thing, right? Insurance, your truck payment. Your truck payment is not, unless you're refinancing, it's not changing all that much, right? So it's going to be the same every month. So those are the things. Your driver pay, maybe that's to you, to yourself. Something that Rick mentioned earlier is that one of the big mistakes that new trucking business owners make is that they don't put themselves in the budget. Now that is, you would never do that to anyone else, right? If you were to hire somebody for your business, you would never say, oh, well, let's see how the business goes. And, maybe you'll get this much this month and this much the next month. No, you would never do that. You would give them a salary. You would either pay them per mile. You might pay them a salary, but you would make an agreement to pay them a certain amount. So do the same thing to yourself. Be as generous with yourself as you would be if you were to hire a driver. Add that as part of your budget and make sure that it can cover your own personal necessities, at least the bare minimum. And then anything on top of that is your business's profit. And that is also something you get to take home. You can also choose to then invest that money back into your business. And at the same time, you've made sure that you're covering your own costs. Basically, you're going to take all of those costs together. Your variable costs, of course, are those costs that are that change with how many miles you drive, right? So that's fuel, that's maintenance, and any other expenses on the road. You're gone for a long time, you're getting a lot more meals, or you need to pay for more showers, you need to, you've been out for too long and you want to stay in a hotel one night and treat yourself. All of those things have to do with the business. Those are those variable costs, those things that are going to change from month to month. You take all of those in 1 month span and you divide it by the number of miles that you drove for your business. And that is your cost per mile. That's how much money it costs you to run 1 mile. So that is how you're going to do that. That's a really simple explanation. We have a more detailed description in our blog, a blog that I recently published on financial management for trucking businesses. And we also have a video coming on our YouTube channel all about that. And so definitely go check that out. A couple of other questions that we got here. How much can I make per week as an owner operator? This is a tricky one. You're going to see how much you make in a week. And as we just talked about, that is not necessarily how much money you are taking home in your pocket, right? How much you made is your revenue, and your profit is going to be what you made in revenue minus the costs, right? So that is actually a more important question to ask yourself. And of course, it's the most obnoxious response in the world, but it depends. It depends on what kind of equipment do you have. How many miles are you running? How many days a week are you able to work? How often do you want to be home? Or how often do your drivers want to be home, right? So all of those things are going to depend. That's always going to depend. There are lots of ways that you can get reliable information. I would say don't just go to any Facebook group. Don't just read any blog. Anybody can put out a blog on the internet. Anybody can create a Facebook group. Go to reliable sources, and Bobtail is a reliable source. Definitely Dale's club that he's created, that's a reliable source. Those are vetted sources of information. Go to those vetted sources of information for all of your trucking business questions. We have a YouTube channel, Bobtail at Bobtail Capital. We're on Facebook, Bobtail Help Desk Facebook group. And we are also going to continue to do more of these sessions. So if you liked it, please let us know, and we hope to see you again. Rick, any closing words?
I think that this really is the way for a better future for the industry. I have to say, freightclub.us is definitely something you guys got to join. Freightvalidate.com. Dale is telling us it's a must, and we'll see you next time.
All right. Have a great one. Thanks, everybody.